Welcome everybody. It's good to have y'all on. There's about 20 of us here, good healthy number. Basically wanted to go live to Robb just wanted me to connect with some folks who are taking some action in HighLevel, let you know that we're here for you. But I thought that for some good content, a way to use this would be that I actually have a DR to launch for Robb. And so I'm going to walk us through that. Say hello to my wife in the background, everybody. That's Paige. She's gotten close. So I've actually got a DR to set up this morning for actually promoting an event that we're going to be doing for you guys. So it's going to be a very meta experience because, you know, the list that I'm reactivating, many or all of you are actually on. So I'm just going to, it's not set up to go out until next Thursday, but I'm going to get it all situated now and just walk through the DR steps live. I've got to do this either way. I'm going to be launching this DR next week. So I figured I might as well go through the steps of setup live with you guys right now, especially for anyone who hasn't done DR, just to kind of add confidence and efficacy to the process and have you see what it's like and how easy or difficult it is to get your first DR set up. And then once I'm done with that, we will have the bulk request queued up and ready to go. We'll take it to that point. Won't actually send any messages out, but then I'll just, we'll take it all the way up to the point of bulk request queued. And then after that, once that is done, hopefully that's a fun thing to watch, and I'll kind of talk through it. And once it's done, then we can ask questions about that, about the process, about how we're using DR, and especially if there's anyone on this call. Actually, I'm curious in the chat, first of all, before we go any further, is there anyone on this call who's not already on HighLevel, who doesn't have a GoHighLevel account they could log into right now, taking action with? Can you please put it in the chat? Go ahead and put a 1 if you are not on let's not do 1 since people are putting 1s in the chat already to let me know that they could hear me. Sorry, go ahead and put a 2 in the chat if you are not on HighLevel. Put a 3 in the chat if you are already on HighLevel. And I'd love to hear from everybody, please. Okay. Thank you guys. Still waiting on a few people. All right. All right. I don't think that's everyone. We've got like 24 people on the call and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12 responses. So I'm missing about 8 of you, not counting myself and Anne. But it's possible folks are maybe driving or otherwise incapacitated to be able to respond. But no worries, it's a pretty representative. Looks like most of you guys are using HighLevel. George's, you are right there, man. Let's get you on that today if we can. But anyways, no doubt. We can go ahead and dive in and get started. And then if there's a bit of time for Q&A at the end, that'll be totally fine. I just kind of wanted to document the DR setup process, wanted to be more visible, more transparent in the way that we're using HighLevel, just so it can, usually it's just like the more we talk about this and the more we, show different use cases for DR in particular, it's usually helpful for folks. I know it's been helpful for me to see that in the past. So here's one we may not have seen before. So I'm going to get my screen share set up, and then we're going to knock this thing out. Let's go to desktop 2. All right. Can everybody see my HighLevel screen? Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. So here's our sublocation. Let's put this on the bottom, please. Actually, I like on top. Top's good. Okay. First thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to database reactivations. I'm going to take the last one that we ran. Folks seeing my screen okay? All right. Thank you, William. Thank you, Sean and Brooks. So let's dive into this thing. Got this. So this is a clone and it's drafted. I have a folder for database reactivations, which is what you'll probably end up doing once you've run kind of a few of them. And I'm actually going to change this because this is going to be a different date, 206. And I've got verbiage here that I'm going to replace. So this was what the last DR said, is what the new one's going to say. I've got verbiage I copy and pasted in my little thing from Rob here. All right. Bang, bang. So the first thing word about SMS compliance, your most effective marketing channels and better not worse, despite what naysayers say. Want a privacy without compliance. That's good. So yeah, I was in the middle of saying before I got booted here that on not Monday, but a week from Monday, I'm going to be doing a live interview with Michael Lucy, who is, as far as my research has taken me, is the foremost authority that I can find on mass compliance today. Had a great call with him earlier this week, and he agreed to go live in the front of the whole group. So we obviously would love to help you guys and help everyone in our community become compliance experts. Not only is it helpful for staying compliant, but it's also super helpful from a sales perspective when you're talking to prospective clients to be able to position yourself as a compliance expert and make sure that your clients know that when they go with you, they're going to be participating in the most fantastic results-oriented marketing, also in a compliant manner. So when they're thinking about, oh, should I, go this way, or should I go try to figure it out myself, or should I hire my nephew, or should I hire someone else to do whatever kind of services you're talking about, for you to be able to confidently say that you have your handle on compliance and that you are following all the guidelines and keeping up to date with that stuff. That's something we want to be able to arm you with, both from a legal standpoint and from a sales standpoint. So glad to see I'm not the only one keeping project lists and docs. Yeah, I just kind of keep my my day-to-day stuff in a doc so I can make sure that Rob is helping me prioritize my time, because I can get really overwhelmed and behind on things otherwise. All right, so here's what it's going to look like. This is the main meat of the DR. This is what I care about most here. The rest of this is just kind of logistics. But I'm going to talk through it all anyways, because this is the way I have it set up for us. We want to send this out, and then we have to have a wait for reply. There's no way to just wait until they've replied, because if I take this out here, let's delete it. And then let's actually go ahead and delete this as well. Oh, all of its branches. Dang. Let's just go ahead and do it. Now, if I do if else right away, I can't do contact reply because it says, we look here, please add a wait for reply step above this step to enable this condition. So for whatever reason, HighLevel will not just allow somebody. Mikhail, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and mute this because that sneeze came through, but it's all good. It needs you to wait until the reply. So we can't just set an if else right after that message. I'm not going to save this. So we have the wait, and I set it for just 3 days. If somebody doesn't respond to DR within 3 days, it's probably not going to happen. You could do 5, you could do 1, but I just picked this. Times out after 3 days. If they don't respond at all, then just nothing happens. So the people who don't respond to this message, nothing's going to happen to them. Not a big deal. We don't need to keep bugging them. We just want to make sure folks know that, Michael Lucy's going to do that. So, but if they do reply yes, then they're going to go down the yes path. And I'm going to wait for the opt-out to fire and remove. So I have it waiting for a day. That's super safe. There's no real reason why it needs to be that way. It should actually, I'll just change this right now. It should be more like just 5 minutes or even 1 minute. Sometimes HighLevel can work on a bit of a lag, I've noticed, and I just want to be extra safe. But the thing is, all of this stuff is, I want to make sure I tag the people that replied, because I want to keep track of just how many responses there are. So whenever somebody responds, I want to make sure that I tag them. So that way at the end of the campaign, when they're all sent and everybody is through this campaign, I can go count up the number of tags that I have. And I can just know, like, hey, here's how many people replied to DR. The only exception to this is I want to make sure if somebody replies stop or remove me, or I don't want to get texted by you anymore, whatever, somebody wants to leave, then I don't want that tag applied. I only want the tag applied to people who responded either positively or at least with something that wasn't the request to opt out. So if that's a stop or if that's a please remove or whatever, we know that, oh, that's actually a good reason for me to put it in a day. Sorry about that. There's a good reason for this. I'm remembering it. So if somebody wants to opt out, I want to make sure they are removed from the workflow altogether before they make it to this step. So that's why I have this filter right here. to allow them to be removed. Let's talk about what it means for somebody to opt out and be removed, because it syncs up with another workflow here. Whoa. So we've got our opt-out campaign here as well. There's a couple different ways that people can be opted out. The first is if D&D gets enabled. So this is the manual piece here. So if somebody says, please remove me, please whatever, then our team will manually just check D&D, just D&D them, and then that will fire the rest of this workflow. And then there's a lot of contains phrases here as well. So if we get a wrong number, we're going to D&D them. Unsubscribe, this is obviously going to hit Twilio as the hard stop, but we also want the workflow to fire for the sake of the organization and HighLevel, for the sake of removing from all workflows in particular. And then stop one uppercase. Oh, we had something with uppercases not necessarily working that well. I don't know if HighLevel's fixed this, but at one point my team let me know that folks were not getting the opt-out, or not getting the opt-out workflow when depending on the case level, which should not be the case, but we just set it there just to be extra safe because I couldn't really quite tell. And then there's another, this is kind of an older use case, but if the tag opt-out is created, then whatever. So there's a bunch of different ways for somebody to opt out, and there's a bunch of different ways for my team to opt people out. The main one is just enabling D&D here. So that said, if somebody replies stop, unsubscribe, replies wrong number, something like that, this automatically fires, and this removes from all workflows immediately. So that's the important thing here that syncs up for me in our use case, and with my trying to do that tracking that I was talking about. Because when we okay. Like I said, when we send this, we want to count the replies. And the only way to do that is by adding a tag right now. But I don't want to count the opt-outs. The opt-outs, I want them to be taken out of. So that's why I have this wait step. So if they wait for a day, they're going to be waiting. Meanwhile, the opt-out campaign is firing, and one of those steps is removed from all workflows. So they will not pass this stage before they get ousted from the entire campaign, so this tag will not be added. But if they responded positively saying, hey, I'll be there, or what's the link, or tell me more, or whatever it is, then my team will respond, I'll respond to them, we'll get them taken care of, get them situated, we'll see them for the live, and then after a day, they'll move on to the next stage. DR replied tag will be applied, and then I'll be able to count them at the end. So this is all not that complicated. I think I probably over-explained it, but just wanted to go nice and easy for the folks who might not be familiar with this sort of thing. But just like that, this is the way that we run DR. This is not an appointment setting DR per se. This is more of just an engagement style DR, which is something you can always be doing as well. If you don't have anything super potent to be offering, like I hear this a lot from some niches that just kind of keep coming back saying, oh, there's no good offers, there's no good offers. Like a classic one is real estate sellers. There are offers that you can go with, but a lot of results from real estate really just come from engagement and consistent engagement over time. So when somebody's shopping around for help selling their house or help buying a house, then this is actually the advice Aaron gave me. Some of the best DR you can do is just once a month, send a message, not necessarily promoting any specific event, but sometimes it's just engagement. Like, you know, hey man, still thinking of selling. And this is essentially just sales follow-up at this point, right? You're not doing anything super fancy. There's no magic marketing. The only really magic thing going on is that if you're working with a client who has a list of 1,000 leads, imagine what it would be like for your client to actually do this kind of follow-up. This is what they should be doing if they want to be successful. If we're being realistic about what it takes to make it in real estate, you have to be super on top of your follow-up. And even with a list of a couple hundred leads who you have a connection with, it's almost impossible. It's a full-time job just to be connecting with your leads. So even if you don't have a specific appointment related offer, just to be able to engage, try to start a conversation, try to remind people you're there, remind people that you're willing to serve them, etc. It can be a huge service to your client. So this is the use case here, promoting this specific live, because we want to maximize the value we're bringing to the community and to you guys. But yeah, if you have any specific questions about how I've got this DR set up, the way that it works, why it works, how it works, tech stuff, anything like that, feel free to put that in the chat now. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the bulk requests section. Stop at both iterations to make sure the opt-out works. Yeah, I'm actually honestly not completely sure of that. I just had a team member tell me that it looked like stop was working in all caps and working in the lowercase, but not uppercase S and lowercase TOP or something like that. So I just added all the filters because there's no reason not to, like there's no harm, just to kind of blot it over. But my understanding is that HighLevel has not worked like this in the past, and it shouldn't work like this in the future. But yeah, so we've just got all the use cases here. It probably doesn't hurt to add and pay attention to if that seems to be working for you guys or not, because all of our main templates have an opt-out thing there too. They all haven't been customized to that extent. So it's just something to pay attention to. Okay, let's dive into contacts now. And we're going to get into the SMS database, which is my preset thing here. This is just, for me, it's all the contacts whose phone is not empty, and for D&D is known. So total contacts all in all of HighLevel for this sublocation is like 42,000. But if I go to phone is not empty, that's already gonna bring us down to like 28. So there's a lot of folks in there for whatever reason we only have an email for. And then if I also set the D&D, I don't want to text the people who are in D&D. Fun fact, if somebody's D&D is on, there's no way you'll be able to text them. The system will just pass over them. If you try to activate the workflow, it'll just skip all the steps. But I still want to filter them out for the sake of my numbers, right? Because if I don't add this, go back and just hit the X. If I just keep up the phone is not empty, then I'll have 28,000 contacts, or 28.5, right around 28,500. And I'll be adding all of them to the workflow. They'll be added to the workflow, and then it'll just skip the SMS step, skip all the steps, and it'll just be a wash. So no harm will come in terms of texting people who don't want to be texted, anything like that. I can't really make a mistake, but it is annoying to have to set up a bulk request knowing that not all of them actually count, that many of them will be passed over for this. So for the sake of me setting up the bulk request and wanting to have good tracking on what our actual numbers are like, what the actual size of the database is like, it's super important for me to be able to filter to just the people who are not in the D&D list. So now I know the people who are actually still opted into receiving messages from us is just below 19,000 here. And that's super helpful for me. So 6,000 people, I'm just not even going to waste a lot of time with. If that doesn't make sense, hang tight. It might after we get into this bulk request section, but I'm going to go to this filter. I saved it as a smart list. You can set up these filters, and then just at the bottom here, there's a save option. So you don't have to reset up your bulk requests every time. You can just go to that preset filter. And these filters, you can put them in a snapshot as well. So when you're onboarding multiple clients, they come with all of these already set up. So you don't even have to do it even the one time for a new client. Check the box, check all the boxes. So all 18,775 of these folks are going to be selected here. And then we're going to hit the robot icon, which says add to campaign workflow. And then unfortunately, these aren't really organized by folder. It's just 100% alphabetical. So I gotta figure this out. 20, what is it? Oh, did I draft it? Something's fishy. Yeah. So that campaign's drafted, which is why it didn't show up there. I'm gonna publish it. Now it's available to send. Woohoo. All right, obviously not. Here we go. All right, there we go. Now there's my live with Michael Lucy. Add in drip mode, super important. You're live with Lucy. Action, you have to put an action there. It's just a title for the bulk request, so I just put something basic and descriptive. I'm going to start this next Tuesday, Thursday. And we're going to start, here's where it's important to be able to do just a little bit of math, and I'm going to walk you through that. We'll start at 8 a.m. Pacific. And now we're going to talk about batch quantity and repeats. So 18775, if I'm going to be going, usually we go from about 8 a.m. Pacific. I should probably do 8:30 just in case there are folks in Pacific. We don't want to be texting them too early. This is going to be a little bit different than when we do local DR for appointment generation for like fitness or something else in wellness or home services or whatever. This is a very, very different game of numbers that I'm going to be doing here. So this may not be what you're used to, but just go with it. You can ask questions about it later if you want. 18775, let's do a little bit of math. If I've got 8:30, I want to send until about 4 p.m. in the afternoon Pacific, because that's 7 p.m. Eastern. I know we've got people on this list from every time zone. Something you don't have to worry about when you're doing local, because everyone's in the same time zone. But when you're doing something that's not local, you have folks from every time zone. You have to take that into account. So I don't want to send a text past 7 p.m. Eastern, which is 4 p.m. So that gives me, what, 9 to 4 is 7 hours, so 7.5 hours. Is that right? 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11, 12, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 6.5 hours. I've got 6.5 hours, I think. Yeah, no, 7. Sorry, I just counted 7.5. So we've got 7.5 hours to send out 18,775. 18,775 divided by 7.5. That means we've got to send about that many every hour. So now let's do that. 60. Whoops. So it's about that many per minute, if that's how I want to do it. And I'll talk about why this is a crazy number in a second. Batch quantity. So I'm going to do 42 just to be safe. 42. And I'm going to go repeats after 1 minute. Other folks do this in other ways. Sometimes people do a batch quantity per hour or per 10 minutes or whatever. It makes the math easier. I always do 1 minute because we are trying to generate conversations here. If we look at the nature of this message, somebody's going to be doing some serious lead nurturing. It's going to be me and my team are going to be managing a lot of conversations on this day. When we run a DR like this, it's most of what somebody does that entire day is just manage these conversations. Because look at the nature of the message. It's just saying want a private seat. So we're explicitly asking people to respond to us. We're explicitly trying to generate a conversation. And when somebody responds yes, we're going to direct them. We've got, templates and lots of efficient ways of just kind of directing them toward the free group where the calendar has the Zoom registration link right in it. And if someone's not in the free group, we'll leverage that as a way to get them to join the free group, etc. So that's kind of what the backend lead nurturing strategy looks like. And we're pretty efficient at that. But at the same time, we're going to get a lot of responses that we're going to have to deal with. So I like setting it up minute by minute so that way it's a steady stream. And Roland will probably still get a little bit behind it, but he can almost keep up at this rate if he's just focused on this all day. He'll be able to manage a conversation with up to 1,000 people or so, which will be nice. And I always like to do it by minute for that reason, and also because I don't have proof of this, but I have a hunch that it's better for deliverability to be able to spread things out as much as possible. When you're talking about Twilio and carrier filters and the algorithms that try to track what is spam and what is not, etc., to have a bunch of messages all going out at once saying the exact same thing and then not again, like just saying, oh, 100 a day, That's going to be 100 at the same exact time every day. So they're all going to send out all at once from the same number. Algorithms can recognize that that's not a human activity, more so than maybe if it's only like 3 minute or 4 minute. Now with 42 a minute, that's as I can't break it down into seconds. HighLevel won't get any more granular than minutes. So 1 minute is the smallest increment I can do. And it's still 42 a minute. So that's pretty insane and pretty non-human. We're going to be doing a lot here, but I'll talk about that in a second. I don't really need to do this since we're going to be getting it done all in one day. That's the other really weird thing about this use case is I'm sending out the entire DR over the course of one day to the entire list. Usually, vast majority of the time when you're engaging a client's list, you don't want to be doing it like this. This is kind of a different use case than what we'd usually do with our appointment generation stuff. But the tech is the same, so I'm walking through the tech. And therefore, just in case I got my math wrong or something, I want to make sure I don't screw this up. And if there are a few more, I guess they could send out it on Friday. But I think my math is right, so I think we're going to be okay. And I'm just going to double check my start date to make sure that when I hit campaign, it's not going to start all of a sudden. It says start on Thursday, February 2nd. Okay, my I's are dotted, my T's are crossed. I can click this button. Nothing's actually going to happen. But let's review the guy here. All right, this is great. This is looking fine. So I've got it all set up. Now all we've got to do is just wait until Thursday and then respond to some messages. So I'm trying to think of what else to say. That was a quick walkthrough. I mean, it took me about 20 minutes and I really talked my way through it very, very slowly. If I was just going at normal speed, this probably would have taken me 5 minutes to set up. Usually you want to get this down to like a half hour. You want to send about 3 a minute for a half hour for 9. That's 90 contacts. We usually try to hit about 100, or you could, do the math to make sure whatever it needs to be, 10 every 6 minutes, that sort of thing. That's okay. Because you want to spread DR out. Usually when you're going for an offer driven direct response appointment setting campaign for your client, which is what we teach for fulfillment, you're looking to do about 100 to sometimes more contacts a day and trying to get about 3% of them booked. So that's about 3 appointments a day, which is great for most clients. Obviously, this depends a lot on niche and price point, all that sort of stuff. But I don't recommend doing 41 a minute for the entire day and trying to send out 18,000 messages in a single day. If that is your use case, if you find yourself wanting to do something like that, you have to note and you have to be prepared to accept the fact that it's going to be very expensive. You're going to spend money that day for sure, sending out that many texts, especially if you're trying to do it like once a week like we are. It's going to be expensive, and also your deliverability is going to be at massive, massive risk. And that's actually something that I'll talk more about with Michael Lucy a week from Monday, about how if you're trying to send more than 500 segments in an entire day, activate more than 500 contacts an entire day, there's extra steps for compliance that you probably need to go through on the business registration side. So we're talking settings, phone numbers, Trust Hub. Oh, is that not even in here? Why do I not even see it in here? Because it's not, it's in my other sublocation. Or maybe it's not. That's weird. For some reason, I'm not saying the Trust Hub right now. So maybe back up. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting my wires crossed a little bit here. Oh. Oh, interesting. Okay. So sorry. Okay, so sorry, this is taking a minute to load. If you're trying to send more than 500 in a day, then there are other steps you need to take. That's what I'm trying to say for being able to send all these messages safely without getting blocked, without getting filtered by carriers. There will be messages not hitting people's phones that you won't even know about because the carrier just filtered it out. unless you've gone through some of this stuff here. So I'm not going to get into this super in depth today. Rob had me go through this process actually with Michael Lucy so that we would be able to have a bit more confidence in being able to increase our sends by quite a ton. So that's how we're able to send 18,000 messages a day pretty safely, but it is still pretty dang expensive. And certainly you don't want to be doing that from an appointment standpoint, from a results standpoint. In most cases, if you're trying to book appointments, there are great reasons why you would never want to send that many text messages anyways. Clients can get overwhelmed. It can be too much. You can book a bunch of appointments in the span of 1 week and overwhelm your client, and they can have people slip through the cracks because they weren't able to field all those appointments. And then the week after it, it's dead. So it's super important for you to develop your sense of what the correct flow is so that your client is very happy with the activity and that it's definitely making an impact. And you're able to spread DR out so that result is dragged out over the course of a month or two so that you can retain your client and not so many appointments that you actually overwhelm and lose opportunity because your client isn't able to handle them. So, okay, that's enough of me talking for the minute. That's the DR. It's set up to go out Thursday. If you're opted into our list, which I think most, if not all of you on this call are, then you'll expect to see a text from me or Rob on Thursday promoting that event with Michael Lucy. So feel free to respond to that. Oh, I do want to talk about KPIs for a second. Let's answer Sean and Brooks first. Just curious what the rationale or strategy is on your end for not spreading this list over 2 or 3 days. There's not a big reason not to. I used to do it that way. We're just doing enough now in the free group with different stuff we want to be able to promote that Rob asked me to start testing because I was actually worried, even with our trust center stuff, even with our brand registration across the finish line, I was afraid that it was still maybe too much like volume. So I was actually much more worried about this about 3 months ago when we started pushing this a lot, because Rob was saying, like, let's DR this, let's DR that. And I'm like, whoa, dude, we got to think about volume here. But I started just creeping and crawling toward becoming more aggressive until it was actually in December was the first time I thought to myself, let's just see what happens if I try to get through our entire list in a day. And because one time in the past, we got suspended by Twilio temporarily while they inquired to us about what our opt-in process was like. And I had to send them screenshots of our opt-in form and an example of a few contacts who filled it out with proof of all that stuff. And we got unsuspended in like 1 day because we were totally compliant. So that was good news and added a lot of confidence to our process. But I'm still, I'm not trying to do that again if I can help it. It's kind of it's a chore. So I've been a little bit wary about going too aggressive. But last month I decided, okay, let's just see what happens because we've got a lot of DRs to do. And I don't want to have to be planning it out with 2 or 3 days of this. Like, let's see what happens if I could just try to do it all in one, just for the sake of our operational efficiency. And I did it and it worked and it went great. And so since then I've been setting up our DRs in this kind of stuff. It's something like this to promote an event. We just want to promote it at the right time in advance of that event for everyone. So I would hate for some people to get the proper notice on Thursday that we're having an event on Monday that they can show up to, and then another person not get texted until Saturday or Sunday, letting them know that event is tomorrow. And the verbiage doesn't change, so I can't make the workflow say tomorrow or versus the date or whatever if we're doing something like that. So it just became simpler for us, and so far it's been working fine. So yeah, my understanding and my belief is that once you go through brand registration and maybe you've jumped through the hoop of proving your compliant opt-in strategy, then you're kind of off to the races as long as you're willing to spend that much to send that many in a day. And Twilio is not very expensive at all, especially when we're talking about local appointment gen, when you're sending out 100 messages a day and booking 3 to 5 appointments a day. It's a very, very cheap, like incredibly cheap tactic, incredibly cheap strategy. When you're sending 18,000 messages in a day just to promote a live session with a compliance expert, and that event itself is not revenue generating for us at all. It's just an engagement thing. It's just a value add to the community. That's an expensive thing for Rob to do. So you got to make sure you're keeping track of that stuff when you're at that point. So great question. I used to do it that way, and then I just tried not doing it and we got away with it. So now I send them all in a day. I'm going to share my screen again one more time to talk about, well, let me get it situated first so I make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. I've started doing this tracking for appointment stuff. I've got a great doc on this of how to keep track of KPIs, what matters in terms of how many appointments that you've set for your clients, how to track that number of appointments that you set. That HighLevel is great at doing that in internal with the opportunity stages and with the workflows, etc. But for what I'm trying to do, I talked to you guys about how I wanted to keep track of just how many people replied positively. That's a little bit harder to do. I have that tagging process. I have that tag adds DR replied. And then what I do at the end is I count up how many DR replied tags I have. And then I actually remove that tag because the next DR, I want to count it again. And I can't just keep that tag around. I could keep adding tags, different tags with the date, like DR replied live with Michael Lucy 2623. That's a really annoying tag. And it's also going to really clutter up HighLevel for me after a while. I can't deal with that. That's a personality thing. Technically, HighLevel could have as infinite tags, but I just don't want to look at that. That's going to drive me crazy. So I count up all my DR replies, and then I actually remove the tag from all those contacts and I store it elsewhere. That's just what I do for Robb. That's probably not a scalable thing you could do across different clients, but particularly for you guys in your own DR strategy, or if you guys get to the point where you are managing your own free group, or you've got your own free content and you're doing engagement type of stuff with your own community for prospecting for clients, which is what a lot of successful agencies do as they grow bigger, then you might want to take from this. But I do want to just go over the last one and how it went for us. So for those of you who are here at the beginning, you remembered I started by cloning the campaign, the exact campaign that we used to promote the Live with Sean that Robb did last week. And I want to show you guys how that went for us. So I've got these metrics here that I just started doing this in a new way. And here's what I keep track of for this. So here's the Live with Sean. I've just got the date when the DR finished, the total number activated, which I could actually put in. So for 2/2/23, I'll just kind of get this situated even now. Oh, we can go here. Let's go back to Pyros. Don't need that phone number situation. We can just go to contacts, bulk actions. I don't know, is everyone going to be in here? I don't think he's in here. By the end of it, we'll be able to see how many people got activated, like on this guy. Super easy to count that number. Before it's actually set off at all, I can just go back to my smart list and recount the number in the smart list. So it's 18,775. That's how many will be activated. So I can get some of this in advance. 18,775. And then I count the new total opt-outs, the new total of people who have been added to the opt-out workflow, because then I can minus it away. So I'm always keeping track of how many folks have been in the opt-out. And so after the campaign is done, I'll count the number of people who got added to it, and then I'll minus it. So this is just, this minus what it was before. So with Sean's, we activated 18,740. This was the new total number of opt-outs, and 11,590 minus 11,324 is going to be 266 opt-outs. Technically, this counts all of the opt-outs in between these two dates, not necessarily just from DR, but the vast majority came from DR because that's the next time we texted them at all. And it was about 266. And then I've got the opt-out rate here, just to keep track of how many people are opting out of our messages and how that's affecting the size of our list. And if this number starts to go up, then we'll know that we're starting to kind of burn through the list and we're not engaging it super well. Maybe we're hitting it up too much. Maybe it's the list's way of giving us the feedback that we maybe need to only do DR once a month instead of once a week, something like that. It's just something I want to pay attention to. But I don't necessarily have KPIs for this. I just want to keep track of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with these numbers. It's not a big deal if it goes up a little bit. But if this number starts going down a lot and this number starts going up a lot, then that's going to be a clear sign of a trend that something's happening. So it's not about necessarily what the numbers are, but it's about how they're changing over time and how that's affecting the list size and responsivity. Then other responses, this is when I go through and I count the number of DR tags, and I'll just do that in a smart list really easily by going here, more filters, tag, is DR replied. Right now there should be 0 in there. Yeah. So it's nice and clean for my next round. But before I went through and I counted and I logged it here. So we had 438 decent responses, non-opt-out responses to the live with Sean. And again, the math on the response rate, that's totally fine. And then conversions, this changes with each campaign. I've got a note here saying, in this case, I was measuring registrants for the call. So that was a Zoom thing. I got that from the team. They said 116 people registered for the call. And then the conversion rate on the percentage of people who did that. So there's not necessarily goals associated with these KPIs, but I just wanted to give you guys an inside look at what I'm doing on Robb's side. So again, this is like a coaching program. This is managing a large scale affiliate marketing based free community where we're trying to add value. That's the use case here. It is nothing like appointment gen. If you're looking for help with the basic, super easy local DR for appointment generation, look no further than the free group. The classroom walks straight through that. So if you have any questions about how to actually do this for your clients, I highly recommend going here and going to free database reactivation course. You can watch these videos from Robb. They're great in terms of mindset and explaining kind of the overall positioning of DR, but in terms of tech implementation, it's all right here. And you can get through this video series and launch your first DR within about 60 minutes, maybe 75 if you're to your first time. As you can see, I went nice and slow. It took me about 20 minutes to set up this latest DR, but if I'm just in my bag and I'm just going for it on a normal day, I can have DR up and running in 5 minutes from when Robb asked me to launch it. So that is a massive benefit. We're not talking about weeks of getting video content together and this and that and doing an ads campaign for whatever. We're talking about just sending a text message to a list of people. So there's literally infinite ways to use that kind of tactic to promote business, to engage for business, to set appointments for business, to help you make sales, help your clients make sales, et cetera, and so on. I'm glad to have been able to share another one with you guys. We might do it again in the future. We'll post this replay in school as well for folks, and in that school post, I'd love for you to post any feedback in the comments. I see another question from Sean and Brooks, so I'll go ahead and answer that. If there's any other questions about anything I went over today, or if you've got anything that's just really holding you back related to the tech implementation, or if you're hitting walls, or if you're not understanding what this whole game is about, please put it in the chat. I'm here to help you with it. It's what Robb pays me a lot of money to do. But I'll answer this question from Sean and Brooks and William. Appreciate you being on here as well. If you've got a jet, feel free to jet. I'm going to answer this question and then we'll wrap up. So they asked, do you consider an opt-out permanent from your overall database or just a particular event like this, and like in this case? And have you found a 4-day lead to be optimal to DR for an event? That's a great question. I haven't got any scientific proof on the 4-day lead. It's just kind of what Robb and Betsy, honestly, they're more of the, like, I get my copy from Robb, I get the strategy from Robb. I'm just the tech implementation guy. And we just kind of follow our gut and do what we think makes the most sense. So we're right around a 4-day lead. It depends on the weekend too. If I was doing the live on a Friday, I would probably only promote it on a Wednesday, because it's like maybe a 2 business days is where we're at for the most part. It also depends a little bit on the content calendar too. So if I know we've already done a DR very recently to promote something else just recently, or if I know that we just are in the middle of some other affiliate campaign and there's still sales coming in from that or something, I don't want to really have our different promotions cannibalize each other. So it's pretty fluid. It's not like a rigorous approach like you're asking about, but if all things being equal, about 2 business day lead up is what we do for the most part. And then an opt-out, is an opt-out permanent? Yes, for us it is. If somebody asks, sorry, let me rephrase this. If they're an opt-out, that's permanent, but that's the language of what we mean when we say opt-out. So if somebody replies stop, that's permanent. Unsubscribe, permanent. Please remove me from your list, permanent. If somebody says, no, I can't make it, or I don't care about that, or I don't want to go, or I don't like you, we don't consider that an opt-out in the first place. We'll get responses of all kinds. Anything that isn't explicitly do not send me more messages or take me off your list or whatever, we just don't consider that an opt-out. So, but if it is an opt-out, that's permanent. It is a very polarized all or nothing thing. And if they say no, then we just say, okay, we'll see you for DR next month. we'll promote another thing to you. And then maybe at that time they would become a hard opt-out, etc. Okay, a couple other questions and we have time, so why not? Oh, I want to answer Roy's first. That's super important. Outside of becoming an affiliate, there are other ways to get our snapshots and bonuses. Yes, please email support@robbbailey.com. We're right on the cusp of releasing even more goodies for our paid affiliates. So we're really excited to be going even deeper and serving. Obviously, this community is great. The group is always going to be free. You can hang out there and get value out of the courses in the classroom and the content that's in the community. We'll continue releasing stuff in there. That's going to be totally free for everyone for all time, as far as I know from Rob, until he changes his mind. But we do want to take it even a little bit further for the folks who are paying affiliates with some priority access and some extra goodies. So if you are an affiliate, that's good news for you. If you're considering getting started on HighLevel and you're not on HighLevel yet, I highly recommend doing that. If you're already on HighLevel, but you're not our affiliate, we are very close to having a way in for you as well. That'll probably just look like a very, very basic, very small monthly fee just to make it fair for everyone who's in there. We're still kind of ideating that and making sure that channel is put together, but there'll be some priority access to the team for either affiliates or people who just want to buy in if there's someone else's affiliate, or maybe, you're doing SMS marketing, but you're not even using HighLevel at all. There's a million ways to go about executing this stuff, and we are here to support you with all that. I obviously highly recommend GoHighLevel. I think it's by far and away the best way to implement this strategy, and I recommend being our affiliate. But if you're already someone else's affiliate, we want to make sure you keep the credit to them, and that they're able to support you as well with whatever it is they do to support their affiliates. But Roy, yes, interested in the third option. We're interested in having you for the third option. So like Anne said, just send us a message at support@robbbailey.com. We'll get back to you. So we'll make sure that you are able to do that. Terry, I would love it if you could post that question. It's a great question about local offers. I'll be the first to admit I'm the tech implementation guy. I'm not a salesperson. I wasn't even hired as a marketing person. Obviously, we're in the marketing world, so I have some chops and some experience. I've talked with a bunch of agencies over the course of my coaching career, but it's really not necessarily my expertise to be able to give you in-depth advice on local offers. But what I would love it if you would do is post that question in the group. It's also kind of not related to what we're doing today, but post that question in the community. We answer questions like that all the time, and you can even tag Rob and he'll hop it in there. And if you ran it by Aaron, he's the person who would have the best advice to give you anyways. So he probably give you better advice than I ever could. But if you're looking for even more feedback, you can get it from me, from Rob, and most importantly, from the rest of the community. We've got like 1,800 people in the group now who are all trying to do the same thing together. And that's what we want the real value of this community to be, is everybody's working on the same thing so we can all kind of help each other get better every day. So I'll encourage you to please post that in the community, and we'll get to it ASAP. Thank you for that. And it's appropriate. Quick question about handing off. Sean and Brooks, that's another great question for the community too. If you could post that in there, I'll either make a Loom video on it or I'll answer it as I can. Antonio, can you explain how you opt in these people? We're actually working on some of our sources right now, our inbound sources. If you're interested in learning more about how you can set up virtually any lead source to feed every lead into HighLevel, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for your client, we've actually got a lot of really good resources on that. Again, classroom, free. This is completely free to everyone on this call. Head to the classroom, head to the database reactivation course. And the second step of database reactivation, it's really the other side to the coin, and that's why you're asking this question, is, well, how do you get leads in to actually build the database up in the first place and nurture those leads right away? We've got a great video series from myself on first some of the mindset of how to approach lead source addition, and then actual explicit in big instructions lead source by lead source. So all the different lead sources that we know how to add And we've never really had any issues with this at all. So I highly recommend going through lead nurturing. Just start at the top here. And then once you get past SMS verbiage, these are all specific sources, and you can learn the different sources that can be used to add leads to HighLevel. We specifically rely mostly on web form funnel. This is probably like 80%, the 80-20 heavy lifter of most lead gen efforts. That's on some level, it's a web form. Zapier and Chat Widget also adds people in for us, and etc. and so on. But I'll leave you to head up. Shauna Brooks, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here and being a good participant and attentive. Hopefully I was able to add some value to you guys today. It's 10 a.m. So we've been here an hour. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If there's anything I missed, or if, other questions related to what we're all trying to do here, please post in the community. And I also really encourage you guys, post your questions in the community, answer someone else's question in the community. It's a free community. Robb's just doing this to try to promote HighLevel and get more people launching DR, but it's going to continue growing, and I try to get to as much as I can with my expertise and my wisdom, but really the only way this is going to be sustainable is if we're all here for each other as well. So I encourage you to post your questions, but also take a look at what other people are posting, see if you can answer one or two yourself, and add some edification to the group so we can all grow together. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
You got it.